Earlier in the course, you learned a little bit about objects. You learned that objects are collections of key value pairs. So if we have properties that are highly related, we want to encapsulate them inside of an object. Here's an example. Let's say we're building an application for drawing different kinds of shapes, like circles, rectangles, and so on. So we could declare multiple variables around circles. For example, radius, we set that to 1, then x and y. We're defining multiple variables, but all these variables are highly related. They represent a circle. A better approach is to put these variables inside of an object. Now we can send that object anywhere in our program. We can pass that to any functions, and all these variables will be available in that object. So I'm going to define an object. We could use let or const. In this case, it doesn't really matter. So let's define a circle object using the object literal syntax. So we add these curly braces, and inside them we add one or more key value pairs. So the first key is radius, and the value is 1. Now this value we have here can be any type in JavaScript. It can be a number, a string, a boolean, null, undefined. It can even be another object or an array or a function. Let me show you. So instead of defining two other key value pairs as x and y, I'm going to add a key called location and set its value to another object. Now in this object we can have two key value pairs or properties. The first one is x and the second one is y. We can also have another property here like is visible and set that to a boolean, true or false. Okay? So the purpose of an object is to group related variables. But it's not just grouping related variables. Quite often we have functions that should operate on these variables. For example, we can have a function like draw for drawing a circle, or we could have another function for moving a circle, right? So again, these functions are highly related to these variables we have defined here. So instead of defining these functions in a standalone way, it's better to put these functions inside of the circle object. Again, with this, wherever we have a circle object in our program, we have access to all its properties and functions. So let me show you how to add this draw function inside of the circle object. We add another key value pair. The key is draw, and the value is a function. So I told you that the value of a key value pair can be anything in JavaScript. Here, the value is a function. Now for simplicity, I just want to do a console.log here. Let's log draw on the console. So now with this circle object, we no longer need these independent variables and functions. All of these are now part of a circle object. So we can access them using the dot notation, circle dot. Look, all of them are here. We can simply call this draw function like this. And if I save the changes, you see the draw message here. Now, what you see here is what we refer to as object-oriented style of programming. So object-oriented programming, also abbreviated as OOP. Object-oriented programming is basically a style of programming where we see a program as a collection of objects that talk to each other to perform some functionality. So here we have a circle object, and this object has a few properties and a function. In object-oriented programming terms, if a function is part of an object, we call that function a method. So here, more accurately, instead of saying we're calling the draw function of the circle object, we say we're calling the draw method of the circle object. Okay, so draw method. So that's the difference between a function and a method. If a function is part of an object, in object-oriented programming terms, we refer to that function as a method. Now, using this object literal syntax is an easy way to create an object, but as our applications get more complex, we need a different way to create objects. And that's what you're going to learn next.